Emerging strategies seems to me like it's a way to simplify the process, and it's a way to chop away some of the assumptions that we inherently make in regards to trying to box in a complex system.
Yeah.
Is that is that kind of your thinking?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's reducing the noise so you can see the signal a little more clearly. That's how I would describe it. And so like I remember first kind of thinking about this and thinking like, man, this is so weird, it's so different just doing the same thing every week. And I remember pitching it to one of my athletes. And I was like, hey, I want to try this new thing with you. I've never done this before. What do you think? And she's like, wait a second. So we're going to do a thing, and then as long as it works, we're going to keep doing it. And when it stops working, we're going to do something else. I was like, yeah. I mean, it sounds kind of simple when you put it that way. She's like, yeah, cool, whatever, And I thought, it's like, that's what you would do in training if you had never been taught about periodization models. Oh, you got to always change it up. No two workouts are ever the same. Like, well, you would do a thing and you just keep doing it as long as you get better at it. And then when it stopped working, you'd think, maybe I ought to try something else. It seems like a pretty simple way of going about it. And I think it turns out that you get a lot of information from simplifying the process like that.
I think the assumption in periodization is that there's a set time when the athlete is going to need variation. So you put these timetables on. It's not just let's do this thing until it stops working. It's let's do this thing for this particular time. You will feel this way, and then we'll switch it up. You will respond this way. And when we taper, you will be super compensated exactly the way that we envision that to happen. And it doesn't seem to work like that. But the example that you gave with your athlete not hitting anything heavier than a 6-rep max before a competition, I think that is scary for a lot of coaches to make a decision like that.
Dude, so last year, sorry, I'm cutting you off here, but I've got another example that highlights that. So last year, we're getting ready for Worlds, and I was fortunately working with Brett Gibbs at the time. And we'd gone through this whole process, and we found that his deadlift really responded best when we were training at the lowest intensities, like 70, 75%. And the second best was middle intensities, 80, 85%, and it didn't really respond that great to the high intensity work. So I remember talking to him about this and setting it up so that we kind of reverse periodized his deadlift training going into the meet. So his second to last block was middle intensity. His last block was lowest intensity. And he went into the meet and crushed it, had a great meet. 10 times body weight total, had a great deadlift at that meet too. But I was really nervous going into that because it's like, there's a lot riding on this. And if it doesn't work, boy, you look like a dummy. Whereas if you just kind of stick to the status quo and it doesn't work, you can throw up your hands like, well, I did everything I was supposed to. Like, well,
Do you think someone would have just called that a 2-month taper? Maybe he.
I guess you could. I find that people mean a lot of different things when they say taper.
Yeah.
When you say you find athletes that respond well to different things, how are you defining respond well? Is it and do you have little test markers? Like if you're keeping people at lower or moderate intensities because you found that works best for them, are you just assuming and hoping that has then transferred to what, the end goal of 1 rep max, or are there little tests that you throw in there to, gauge a little bit?
I like to base it off of estimated 1RM, which tends to be pretty reliable for most of the stuff that we're doing. So I'm tracking progress based on estimated 1RM. It doesn't have to be just that. You could do AMRAPs. You do need something that is going to give you some performance feedback. And I think the more reliable, the more relevant it is to your competition performance, the better it's going to work. So like I know the throwers, they're gonna have a few competition throws at the beginning of the session, and that's their benchmark, and they may throw heavy hammers or light hammers, but they would treat that like a special exercise, how we would treat safety bar squats or something like that.
Do you think it would be beneficial to have somebody work up to a relatively heavy single and then, like, just as a temperature gauge, not a 10, just an 8 and see how it feels, look at bar speed, something like that, and then work into whatever they were going to do, but it's not enough intensity to wreck them.
Yeah,
but
no, I really like that as a benchmarking tactic. Single at a 8 RPE or something like that. And then back off work after that. That's a really good way to benchmark progress and have it be relevant. I do find that we went through a period where we were doing that like all the time, and that got overused too. Anything that's in the program all the time is gonna get overused, and you have to take some breaks from it.
Just max out every day now. They forget it's not.
Back to Bulgaria.
Yeah.
Right. It all comes back to that.